I'm Espy from Mississippi, and my project was the effects of perfluorooctanoic acid on Daphnia magna. Daphnia magna are small aquatic crustaceans which occupy important roles in the food chains of many aquatic ecosystems, while PFOA is a common environmental toxicant that is released as a byproduct of the manufacture of Teflon and other nonstick coatings by chemical companies such as DuPont. There exists very lax regulations on the release of this chemical in some states, which results in this chemical being found in the blood of up to 98% of Americans, according to the National Institute of Health. So, PFOA has also been shown to cause cancer and birth defects in human populations, and it persists in the environment and does not break down easily, which is not good news for the environment. This experiment hoped to gauge not only the effects of PFOA on individual organisms, but on the populations of Daphnia magna as a whole in order to better gauge the effects of this chemical on the environment. This experiment involved 4 groups of 30 Daphnia magna, which were exposed to concentrations of 0, 7, 70, which is the legal limit, and 700 parts per trillion of PFOA, or perfluorooctanoic acid. So, overall, it was found that there was a direct correlation between the rate of population decline and the concentration of PFOA, with the 700 parts per trillion concentration being completely dead by the end of the experiment. So the control group stayed the most stable out of all of the groups in this experiment. It neither grew or shrank that much and actually declined slowly and naturally. There was an initial spike in the populations that were exposed to PFOA, which was likely a stress response, which caused the Daphnia to breed more, but as the chemical built up in their bodies, they eventually died off more, so there was an overall decline. The population of 7 parts per trillion actually did have a higher population than the control group by the end of the experiment, but you can see that the rate of the population decline was actually larger, so had the experiment continued for longer, its population would have dipped below. So had the lifespan of these creatures been longer, and the experiment allowed to continue longer, the control group would have fared the best. So overall, it was concluded that PFOA had an extremely negative effect on the populations of Daphnia magna, and the highest concentration, the 700 parts per trillion concentration, the Daphnia actually turned yellow and looked extremely sickly, so we can gauge that it had a really negative physiological response on them. So this experiment can be used to help environmental groups lobbying for more anti-PFOA legislation.